What's up, friends? Today we are here doing a review on the Meepo V3 Max. This is going to be a partial riding and studio review, similar to what was it, the Cyber Mini X. In any case, we're going to be riding for a little bit, talking about the things that I like and don't like about this board, and then we'll go into the studio, go through the performance and scoring. So the Meepo V3 Max is in an interesting spot in Meepo's lineup. In a way, it's sort of a budget plus board, which is probably what I'm going to call this review. It's in between the lowest tier, being the Meepo V5, and the high tier, being the Meepo Voyager, but there are several steps in between, including the Meepo Go and the Meepo Envy. Now, I have reviewed the Envy already. You can check that out in the iCard, and that was a good board, but it's a lot more expensive. I believe it was somewhere around $700 at the time, so we're not really in the same category of price at all as that board. So when you think about this board, you have to think budget side, and when you look at the price on the RBEM Score chart later, you'll see that this is pretty close to the bottom end of the pricing that I've reviewed so far. And for what you get, I honestly think it's pretty good. And that sort of leads me into the first thing that I like about this board, and that is the price to performance ratio. And you're not getting a ton of performance with this board. Don't get me wrong, it's still a budget board, but it does do pretty well, as you'll see in the charts. There's a lot of mid-range marks that it gets. And the range isn't that bad either. It's about 12.2 miles, I believe, is what I got. And it really is quite fun to ride on nice streets. We're in a different area today because I wanted to record on some nicer roads. And this road right now is pretty fresh pavement. And man, it just feels absolutely buttery smooth on these hubs. It's completely quiet, super chill. Great vibes. Now, it would be great vibes on pneumatics too, and pneumatics would be able to go over this next part of the road without issue. This part of this road is absolutely terrible. And that's something you're going to have to contend with when you have hubs on a board. But all of that in consideration, the price to performance ratio is great. And today it's $469 for the V3 Max. And there are no options available on this. It's just the board as it is. There's no battery changes or drivetrain changes. Meepo has decided to separate those into different boards. So if you look at the difference between the Meepo Go and this board, you'll see that the Meepo Go is a belt drive only. And in my opinion, this board is very similar to the Go and really is only differentiated by the drive system. And oh my gosh, this road is something else. Switch off of that, goodness gracious. As the one downside of hubs. But anyway, number one thing, price performance ratio is great. Number two, portability. Now, I've been a hater of these board handles in the past. I think they look silly, and they kind of make the deck flex in an unbalanced way. However, they're very convenient for taking your board places, especially as a last mile commute, quote unquote. So we get off real quick. Again, decent brakes. And we have hill hold. Love that feature. Get off, pick up our board. It's not as balanced as I would like, to be honest. It leans to the back. If you grab right near the back side of the handle, it's better, but it could do with a little bit better balancing. But it makes it so easy to carry. And in these days, we have so many boards with a ton of range and features and gear drives and all of that weight adds up. And this thing is light, 19.5 pounds. It's close to the bottom side of the chart. And when you consider the fact that 2 shortboards that I reviewed lately are heavier than it, you know, that is an interesting data point for sure. Now, as far as portability goes, this is still a longboard, so it's not going to be as convenient as some of the shortboards could be for putting into small spaces, but it's really not that long, and it's pretty thin. So if you're putting it in the back of your car or something, you can fit other bags around it, and I wouldn't really be too worried about that. It's enough that I really feel like, oh my gosh, this road is bad. I said earlier I was coming over here to ride on better roads, but I guess it was just that other road that we were on that's better. Oh. Anyway, the board is small, lightweight, and still offers a little bit more of a stable standing platform than some of the short boards, in my opinion. So I think it's a pretty good mix. As I've stood here complaining about the hubs and the road, I will say that my third positive point on this board is simplicity. Now, this versus the Meepo Go, there's a $100 price difference, this being $100 cheaper, presumably because the belt drive system costs more. The main difference on the user side is that one has to be serviced, aka the belts break sometimes, pulleys wear. This one does not. However, the only way to fix the wheels is to replace the sleeves on them, and of course Meepo's sleeves are proprietary somewhat. I think there are cloud wheel donuts for this, but I think that's about it. I know Meepo has a different sort of sleeve that goes on here as well, but in a way it's a little bit easier than a belt drive system because there's only one moving part. It's literally just the hub motor, and on a belt drive system you have the motor pulley, the belt pulley, or the wheel pulley, and the belt, all things which can get rock stuck in them, which is something that really annoys me when I'm riding a belt drive board. Some of them are better than others at rock rejection, but you don't have to worry about that on hubs. So price performance ratio, portability, and the simplicity are 3 of the main selling points for this budget board, in my opinion. All right, we talked about the positives. There are 2 things that I think could be improved on this board, and they're kind of subjective, I guess. But one, this deck, it's not really the greatest. You really have to set your expectations for a $450 or $480 board, but it is one of the weaker parts. I think it's a lot better than the Meepo V5 deck for sure, no question. But it's still a bit on the stiff side, and it's not really as flexi compliant as I would like. I think this would do a lot better with a more flexible deck, maybe using a better layup of composite and wood rather than just wood, or whatever material it is. I have to check, but the setup they have here is okay. I feel like it's supportive a lot more than the V5, but if it was a little more flexible and responsive, probably more like the Voyager deck, honestly, then I think it would add a lot to this board. Second point, the build quality is on the lower side. It is decent, like everything is solid, but the enclosures look pretty cheap, and they're pretty much identical to the ones on the V5, save the battery being bigger. But the design is lacking for sure, and when you have things like the Voyager to compare to, it really just blows this out of the water. So I think if Meepo were to redesign this with some more curvy edges rather than the boxy, plastic, cheap looking things, I think it would look a lot better as well. They might have to increase the price though to do that, so I don't know. That's definitely subjective, but I think it could look a little bit better. Overall though, this board is a really great value pick in my opinion. If you don't mind having hub motors, you get okay range, 12.2 miles, you get decent amount of power, really decent, good brakes for a hub motor board, and you get a little bit of acceleration. We are on 12S 3P, I believe, so you have a decent bit of torque in there. It's just a little bit slower to get up to speed than a belt drive board with that mechanical advantage. So Meepo claims these are about 800 watts per hub motor, which is pretty beefy as hub motors go. And honestly, for a hub motor board, they're on the larger side too, offering more bump absorption and vibration absorption than smaller, thinner sleeved wheels. And that is something I do have to commend Meepo on, is that this hub board and hub drive setup is really quite comfortable for being hubs. They're not that far off the pace from a cheap set of urethane wheels, which is definitely not how it used to be with hub motor boards. They used to be so uncomfortable to ride. And I think it's a combination between the size of these hubs and the whatever urethane compound they're using. They've just done a really good job with it, and I think I wouldn't mind having this as my first board for sure. And one thing I would like to point out is that I think this board is way worth the money over the Meepo V5. If you want to save $100 more, you get way more with this. Way more range, better performance, a better deck, better hub motors, a better, well, I actually think they might have put this remote on the new V5 too, but the full setup is just a lot better for only $100 more. I know it, 600 or 500 bucks after taxes and stuff is kind of a lot to get into a hobby, but at the same time, it used to be a lot harder to get in. And with what you get out of this board, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer as a starter board. For all the veterans out there, probably not as interesting, but you know, that's not the point. Not every board has to be the most powerful thing in the world. So we'll get into the actual performance scoring and rating now, but overall, my riding review of this board is it's surprisingly good, and I think it's a great value pick. So thanks for watching this part. All right, y'all, it's time to get into the PSPEC score for the Meepo V3 Max. This board is a very middle of the road board, as you might expect from something at this budget. Now, we are going to go through our normal categories, but we're probably going to do it a little bit fast because honestly, it's not all that impressive. First up, we have acceleration. And in the acceleration tests, it did quite poorly overall, coming in close to the bottom of the chart at 6.72 seconds for 0 to 20. Now, we have to take into consideration how low the top speed is on this board, so it kind of makes sense that it would take a while to get there, as well as the hub motors. Not super powerful, but all things considered, nearby it has the Cyber Mini X, much more expensive board. The Flex ER is quite a bit behind, that's an older board. And then the Maxxxx is nearby as well, again, a lot more expensive, so gotta put things in perspective. Next up, the 100-meter sprint. Again, continuing the trend of not being super great on performance, this did come in close to the bottom of the chart at 12.36 seconds for that 100-meter sprint. We maxed out on our top speed, just past the 0 to 20 time, so it's to be expected that you're going to run out of top speed and then just be going that speed all the way through the 100 meters. Unlike some other boards like the Phantom X, for example, that tops out right before it hits the finish line, so it's accelerating the entire way through. Now, coming in towards the bottom of this chart is not a huge deal. Again, nearby, Maxxxx, the Cyber Mini X, Flex ER, other budget power boards, and It's actually fairly similar to the time that I got on my DIY own board, which is a very old board. But again, hub motors, so you have to keep things in perspective. Next up, we have the torque. Now, torque on this board is again pretty low, towards the bottom of the chart, coming in at 12.15 Newton meters. And nearby, we have other budget boards. The Wowgo 3E, very similar. Maxxxx, Cyber X, and shockingly, the Defiant 1 is not that far off. I leave that mostly up to the fact that it has such a terrible gear ratio, but this is about what I would expect in terms of stall torque for a hub motor board. Next up, we have the top speed, and like I mentioned earlier, the top speed is not super high, coming in at 25.6 miles an hour, but when you think back to like boosted board era when they max out at 22 miles an hour, and this is a quarter of the price, I don't know, I mean, it's been a long time, but it doesn't seem too unreasonable to only go 26 miles an hour. It's still fairly fast, and you can definitely still hurt yourself. Ironically, it was the same exact top speed as the Maxxxx. I don't know how that happened, but that is what we ended up at. And it's pretty similar to the performance of the X1 Max hub from X-Way, another hub board. If we look at the Meepo V5, it is a bit slower at 24 miles an hour. I don't think there's any other hub boards on here to compare to, but overall, 26 miles an hour isn't super fast, but at the same time, if you're a beginner getting this board for the first time, maybe you don't need to go faster than 26 miles an hour. Braking on this board is okay, and it's about what I would expect considering the rest of the charts, but it came in at 27.1 feet. Now, going only 15 miles an hour and taking 27 feet to stop definitely could be a little bit slower than you might like. So make sure when you're planning to stop, especially from higher speeds, to give it a little bit extra distance. Hub motors are not the strongest when it comes to braking performance. You don't have that gear ratio to have a mechanical advantage to stop the wheels. So you really rely on the maximum current that they can put back into the battery, which in this case is obviously not a ton. Nearby, another hub board, the X1 Max, fairly similar performance, and both of the Maxxxx boards. Meepo V5 is also close here, although the Meepo V5 did stop faster, but that's not a bad thing in that case because the V5 braking was a little bit scary. It was sort of unpredictable and not very smooth. So this is definitely smooth and controllable. While it does take a while to get to zero, you get there nicely. So I'm not too mad about it. The braking curve is nice, and it stops a little bit faster than some of the other boards on the list. To bring up and wrap the PSPEC all together, we have range, which I already mentioned earlier in the video. The range on this board was 12.12 miles. And you can see the range chart here on screen, comparing it to all the other boards. Nearby, you have the Meepo MLR, ironically, very different use case. The X1 Max hub, another hub board, with a small-ish battery as well. Wowgo 3E is less, and then we have the next tier of boards like the Flex Pro and higher capacity battery boards above that. So for the price, the battery that you've got in here is not too bad. 12.12 miles is definitely respectable. However, you can definitely chew through it faster if you accelerate harder and ride more spirited. The range tests that I do are very controlled, so if you're maxing the throttle on this and doing hills all the time, you might only get 9 miles. So just keep that in mind. And it will start sagging the lower you get in the voltage, so you'll lose a little bit of your top speed as you go down in battery voltage. Bringing that all together, we get a total PSPEC score of 28.4. Now, this puts it in the lower third of my PSPEC chart, which is honestly kind of what I expected. And sitting nearby are the two Maxxxx boards, the Maxxxx and the Mini X. They all apparently share pretty similar performance, although this is a lot cheaper. So take that into consideration when you look at this chart. PSPEC score in itself, 6.72 fastest 0 to 20, 12.15 Newton meters of torque, 25.59, I don't need the extra decimal point there, but 25.6 miles an hour, 27 feet of braking, and 12.14 miles of range. Brings it to an average score. All right, it's time for the RBEM score. Now, before we get into that, real quick note, got the charger here. I just wanted to say that I think that this is a nicer quality than some of the other chargers we've seen in the past for such a budget board. Now, it is only 12S 2.5 amps, so it still takes over 3 hours to charge it, but it feels nice, and I just have a feeling that this would probably last longer than some of the other cheap ones. But just wanted to show that off. It's definitely not very small though. Pretty big for a 2.5 amp charger, but there you go. And they also have a nice charge port on here. It's not a barrel plug. It's one of those Meepo 3-pin connectors. I don't know what you call it, but it's a nice plastic charge port. And I think it's a big upgrade on the barrel plug that the V5 had. So let's jump right into the RBEM score with build quality. Build quality on this board is definitely average. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Overall, it's decent, but there's some small things here and there that are just cheap. The plastic texture on here looks cheap. The guards on the front and back of the board tend to slide in and out, which is kind of weird and annoying. I will give them props for the trucks. They do look good, and I believe they're forged trucks, the Meepo shredder trucks. Worlds better than the trucks on the V5, but still not incredible. The deck is pretty good. Overall, it feels a lot better than the V5. The quality is all right. The wood texture looks nice, and I kind of like this dual tone look they have going on here. The enclosures seem to be well made. The design is really not my favorite. They're really boxy, and they look cheap. You know what I mean? I'll give them more props for how their hub motors look though, because these are super chunky sleeves on here, and they're probably the best hub motors that I've ridden personally. I think the design on the outside looks cool, and the way that they attach the sleeves looks super cool as well. I don't really have too much else to say about the quality. The grip tape is good. The handle doesn't detract too much from the flexibility. It's not super uneven like the V5 was. There are cable guiding clips on the rear base plate, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty good quality overall. Next up, deck. I gave this 6 out of 10. It's not my favorite deck in the world. It's not super wide. There's not much concave to it at all. The flex is not super great. It's actually pretty stiff considering that it has a handle in it. It's pretty thick, so I don't think you're gonna be breaking this anytime soon, but it just wasn't the most comfortable ride in the world. I think the Voyager deck is a lot nicer. I think some of the X-Way flexible decks are a lot nicer. And this is definitely somewhere that they could improve in the future. A little bit more width, especially towards the foot areas, would be nice. So again, 6.5 out of 10. Next up is the remote, and this I gave 8 out of 10 because this remote is actually quite nice. It is the same remote as the MLR. Actually, this is the M6C remote. I think the MLR is M6S, so it might have a different version of the firmware on it, but it gives you what you need for a board of this caliber. And you got an odometer, brake strength, gear, signal, and board battery. Only segmented into 4 pieces or 4 parts, but overall it does the job, and I like how comfortable this remote is in hand, especially compared to the remote that was on the V5, which felt like a tiny, cheap little plastic shred. So it's pretty comfortable. You got a spot for your index finger, and the thumb wheel feels all right. Definitely very plasticky and not like premium feeling, but it's a big upgrade over the V5, and that's the main thing I'm comparing this to. So there you go. Next up, ESC. Now, ESC on this board is okay. It is very smooth, and it does the job that it needs to do for the price that it's at. It's not super powerful. There's no extra special features except for hill hold, which I do like a lot. And there's not really any real adjustment to it besides the speed mode. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's respectable, but you know, this is the price point we're at, so it only has so much of an upper range that you can get to. Overall, it's a budget ESC. Trucks and bushings on this board are a lot better than the V5. I will keep saying that until forever because the V5 was not good. Bushings on here, I think are 90A, somewhere around there. I'll have to check on the website and put that information on screen, but they feel pretty decent for the board setup as it is. They're not super carvy, but they also don't have the issue of the rear truck feeling heavy from the hub motor. So I think the setup is good. You can definitely improve this setup with riptides, but you can also get all the way up to top speed without an issue, and you can do turns relatively easily. So not bad at all. I did give it a 6.2 out of 10 because of the geometry of the trucks, how much turning is available, and they just aren't my favorite trucks. They're a lot better than V5, but they're not nearly as good as, for example, the 45-degree trucks from some other companies. So I think that the trucks are a spot that they could probably improve in the future, but big step up from the V5. Now, wheel options. I put a 2 for wheel options, 2 out of 5. Main reason being they are hub motors, so you can't really change the wheels very much, and there's a couple options for sleeves. So this is pretty much the upper bound for a hub motor on wheel options as well. It does have a couple things that you can put on them, but it's not like you're going to put pneumatic tires on here or 125mm wheels. Like, it's just not a thing that you can do. So you've got a couple options. You can look them up on the Meepo website. I believe Cloud Wheels also has an attachment for these, so check them out as well. But there's your score for wheels. Water resistance is sort of a weird topic to cover because it's hard to gauge it, but for this board I gave it a 4.6 out of 5. The foam seals on here seem to be pretty good, and obviously not having complexity at the back makes the hub motor setup a bit more durable to water than all of the bearings and motors and coils and stuff in normal boards. Not inherently a problem to have all that complexity, but there's less going on here. So 4.6 out of 5 I think is appropriate. They do have an IP rating on their website. I don't know if I believe it or not, but honestly, if you rode this through some puddles and maybe some light rain, it would probably be fine. The main thing I'd be concerned about is the battery, and it's sealed in there pretty well. So there's your score for water resistance. I think they could improve it by changing this foam to a thicker rubber, but it feels pretty good as is. For customer service, I gave Meepo a 3.5 out of 5. I think their service is really good sometimes and just average other times. At least that's what I've seen online. So being, I think, not super arguably the biggest EC8 company of the modern day, you're gonna have people that complain on all kinds of social media about the customer service. The reality is there's probably hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people that get helped adequately by their customer service and just never say anything about it. So I think there's always room to improve on customer service, but I think they do a decent job overall. And I know Kieran would encourage his teams to treat customers with respect because that's what he does when he interacts with people at events and stuff. So I think they're probably going in the right direction, but understandably there's going to be people that have issues because most of the customer support is in China. So long response times and maybe some translation difficulties could occur, and that's just a problem that exists for most of these brands that I review. Final one, price and value. I think price and value on this is pretty good. The price is low, performance is average to low, but when you put those two things together, you get a fairly decent package. And this is definitely not something that's aimed at people that are racing, people that want the maximum performance. It's aimed at beginners and maybe second boarders. So you have to take that into consideration for this category, and I think they did pretty well. So I gave it 4 out of 5 for the price and value. And you never know, sometimes you might get this board on even deeper sale for special events and stuff. So keep an eye out for that if that's what you're looking for. Bringing all these scores together, we get a total of 48.8, which puts the V3 Max 6 positions from the bottom of my RBEM list. And honestly, for the price, that's a pretty respectable place to be. There are a lot of boards. There's a couple of boards below it that are more expensive. And this is one of the cheapest boards on my list, period. So overall, it's not bad. It's not too heavy, only 19.5 pounds. And I felt pretty comfortable cruising around 20 to 23 miles an hour on it. So it's definitely a board that will take you from the V5 range closer to the Voyager range if we're talking in terms of Meepo's products. So if you master this board, maybe the next move is to go to a Voyager or a Voyager X. Who knows? Like, your drive looks pretty sweet. In any case, my thoughts on this board have been summarized pretty well in this video already. I think it's a great value pick for people that don't need a ton of performance and want a little bit better than average range for something at this price point. And Meepo is, again, one of the biggest skate companies in the world right now, so e-skate companies, sorry. So you probably will find a lot of other people that have this board or boards similar to it. You might even have someone in your local area. So let me know what you think of the Meepo V3 Max down in the comments below. I think they did a pretty good job with this product overall. So I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out. Real quick side note, I know you guys want to see that X-Way Atlas Pro 4-wheel drive video soon. I've been working on getting the performance stuff for that done on the 2-wheel drive first, and then we upgrade to the 4-wheel drive. So it's in the pipeline. Keep an eye out for it and get subscribed to make sure you don't miss it.